Hello, I'm Eileen Roach, founder of Designs and Machine Embroidery, and a big welcome to all of our friends, our co-citizens of North America, all of you in Canada. We are so excited to present this event today, which is our Edge to Edge Quilt with Your Embroidery Machine virtual event. We're just delighted to be able to share all of these tips and techniques with you in the comfort of your own home. In today's 90-minute session, you're going to learn how to place embroidery designs, handle that bulky quilt, and achieve perfect placement. Plus, how to connect those designs line to line, right? That's what Edge to Edge is all about. Well, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our friend Gail Heller of Erie Quilt Art. So I'm going to welcome in Gail, and she's going to give you some of the details that you can expect to find in today's event. Hello, Gail. How are you?
Hi, Eileen. Thank you. Thanks for having us. And hello to everyone joining us from across the country. I just want to introduce Erie Quilt Art. For many of you who don't know, we are a Canadian distributor of quilting products. And we have recently entered an arrangement with Dime where we're carrying Dime products in Canada. And of course, we started that shortly after the pandemic started, which is why many of you haven't seen a whole lot yet. So we thought this was a great opportunity to do two things. One is to introduce Dime products to Canadian quilters and embroiderers. And secondly, and probably even more importantly, to support Canadian quilt and embroidery shops. So it's been a tough year for everyone. And this way, our Canadian customers are going to be able to participate in a Dime event. You're going to be able to purchase your Dime products, and you're going to be able to support your local quilt shop in that process. So I just want to go through a few logistics so that everything is clear to you. If you choose during or after the show to be purchasing any of the Dime products that you've seen Eileen demonstrate to you, you will be welcome to put those in your shopping cart, and she will go through how all of that works. But there is a special Save Freight code that you would enter when you check out. And what that means is not that it's completely free freight, but it saves you a whole lot, because what Dime is doing is paying the freight to Canada. We are paying the freight to the Canadian quilt shops as our way of helping them. And then if you pick it up at your local quilt shop, there will be no further shipping cost. If you want it shipped direct to your home, then you'll be talking to your local quilt shop, and depending on the distance they are from your home, they'll let you know if there's any added cost to that. In the future, just so you're aware, some of you are already Dime users and love Dime products. You will be able to source Dime products from your local quilt shop. They may not bring it in as stock initially, and that's, again, another challenge, bringing in something new during a pandemic. But they will be able to bring things in, even one by ones, even single spools of thread if that's what you want. And then once there's enough demand, the shops are there to do what their customers want. And if there is enough demand, I suspect your local shop will start to carry the product.
That's wonderful. And it's a great way to connect with our Canadian friends and to give them the advantage of being able to shop locally, because I know that shipping can always be such a problem. So, but those of you who are in the US, and you will also use that same free ship code, and you'll enjoy free shipping here today. European customers, if you're viewing today, then you will have to pay regular standard international rates of shipping. So anyway, but we have so much to share. And, Gail, this is really like a shop and learn 90-minute session. We jam pack a lot of information into this 90 minutes. So you will see a lot of product demos, and know that they're just how we do this technique. We use our products, and it's what makes it easier. So along with some product demos, that's where you're also going to find the tips and techniques on, how to get that perfect placement, how to manage the quilt, and all of that, even how to baste. We don't sell anything for basting. So, okay. Well, Gail, shall we allow our lead educator, Ashley Jones, to come in and kind of start us off? What do you think? Are you ready, Gail?
We're ready.
All right. And we're going to see Gail again at the end. Now, we encourage everyone to, put your questions in the chat. I'll be in the chat, so will Gail. And we'll have 3 different Q&A segments throughout today's program that we will address, topics that everybody's interested in a group setting, right? Bring everybody in together.
And the one more important thing is that for 48 hours after the event, it will be open so that you can watch it over and over. Because if you're anything like me, you may not absorb it all the first time through. Right. And you may want to go back and say, what did she say about that? So you will have that opportunity for 48 hours.
That's great advice, because it does move really quickly, and it's wonderful to come back, and then you can fast forward or, rewind at your leisure and catch the points that you missed. So, well, Gail, I'm going to step out of Ashley's way. I think you'll join me, and we'll see you again at the end.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Gail, for hosting. Thanks, Eileen. I'll see you in a bit. So welcome, everybody. We are super excited to be broadcasting in Canada, and we really appreciate all of you guys being here watching. And like Eileen and Gail were explaining, we have made sure to make these special shipping for you guys in Canada so you can participate. And today's event, like they said, we are talking about edge-to-edge quilting with your embroidery machine. So I'm going to share with you everything that you need to know to get your quilt tops quilted on your embroidery machine. And along the way, I am showing you some of our dime product that we use that makes it easier. But just know the things that I'm showing you, you can use with the things that you probably already have. So just so you're aware of that, but make sure you ask all your questions as you go, because that's how you're going to get the most out of this event. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to share with you is exactly what we are referring to when we are talking about edge-to-edge quilting with your embroidery machine. We all know that our embroidery machine can only stitch what is actually in the hoop. So to get an all-over quilting, we do have to connect our quilting designs, sometimes point to point, like Eileen says, and that is the technique we're talking about today. We're going to talk about how to get those designs connected and what you'll need to do to make that happen. So with this process, you can quilt pretty much anything that you need quilted fabric for. So whether it's a small project or an actual large quilt like you see here. So you could quilt up to a king-size quilt on your embroidery machine. You can quilt large projects and even small projects, which is exactly where I would recommend starting if you've never done this process. So something like this small project here, which is our tree skirt, or you can do table runners, which are perfect because then you've got a fun, usable item once you're all done. You can also do small projects like this casserole carrier. So still even smaller than our table runner, but still requires multiple hoopings. And we're going to be giving you all the details that you'll need to make this happen. And when we're done, you'll be able to get all of your quilt tops finished and have a stack of beautiful quilts just like this. So I want to start by sharing some inspiration with you. One of the things that was concerning to me when I started this journey with quilting with my embroidery machine was, what does the back look like? So is it actually as nice as the front when it's done on your embroidery machine? And the answer is yes. So this is my casserole carrier here. And I wanted to show you, we always want to see what the inside looks like. So I'm going to show you what the back looks like so that you will know that you can produce an item that is quilted on your embroidery machine that looks great on both sides. So that's a nice small project. If you have something to quilt that you just need quilted fabric for, then you can make that quilted fabric with your embroidery machine. An even smaller project like this one that you see here, this is a drying mat that I created for things that I don't put in my dishwasher. And I have a 14 by 14 square here. So I still had to connect my embroidery designs to give this all over quilting look with this one square. So practicing with something small like this is a great thing to do. Also placemats and, like we said, table runners. So all great places to start. Now here is a table runner that I created, and using the thread to create a really unique look with my design. I love that my quilting design is part of the focus of this table runner. I made sure to choose a contrasting color so you really can design your quilt tops and quilt them on your embroidery machine. They're going to look great. And here's another look at the back. So I just wanted to reiterate the fact that if this is a concern, don't worry about it. We're going to give you tips today to make sure that everything is great and you're going to be happy with your quilting. Now, this item here is a small quilt, and this is actually the back of it. So this is my first tip that I'm going to give you about doing this process with your embroidery machine. So when you're quilting with an embroidery machine, the back of your design, you do have a tie off and a tie on stitch to keep your design from coming apart. So you will see that on the back of your quilt unless you pull your bobbin thread to the top. Now, you're going to see throughout this presentation that sometimes, depending on the size of your project, you have a lot of hoopings to get an item quilted. So choose a busy fabric for the back. This one, I pieced together scraps of fabric that I wanted to use up, but they're all busy prints. So any knots on the back would never be noticed. The busy print fabric attracts your eye so you don't notice those knots. But like I said, if you want to reduce the size of those knots, you can pull your bobbin thread to the top, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So just choose a busy printed fabric for the back. So that's my first tip to share with you. So now I want to start by showing you this video. This is Eileen quilting this quilt you see her holding on her embroidery machine. So you'll get to see the entire process in just a couple of minute clip. So take a look at this. So Eileen is using our weightless quilter, which we're going to talk about. The weightless quilter helps her manage the bulk of the quilt. But this process that she's doing here, you can see the base of her hoop is already on her embroidery machine, and she's already basted her quilt. So you do need to baste when you're quilting with your embroidery machine, and she's using a template to help her with her placement, and we'll discuss all that in detail. So now you can see that she places her magnetic top frame on her the base of her hoop, and we'll talk about those hoops in a bit. But this is the process that you need. So when you're quilting with an embroidery machine, you'll quilt the section that's in your hoop. Then you will reposition the fabric to the next location that you're ready to quilt in order to get that next area quilted. So you have to do this process throughout the entire quilt to get your quilt quilted on your embroidery machine. Now, like we said, you could use your standard hoop for this. It's perfectly fine. We love using our magnetic hoop. You can see how she lifts that magnetic top frame right at the machine and repositions it back in place. So it allows us to be able to reposition our quilt without leaving the embroidery machine. So now she's finishing up. She's at the bottom corner there. She's getting pretty excited because it's almost finished. So there it is, tying that last stitch. And look at this, all quilted on your embroidery machine. So look how gorgeous. So you guys too can do that at home. So one of the things that you need, not just a quilt sandwich and an embroidery machine, but you need a quilting design. And so we are giving you this free anchor design for joining us here today. So this is a thank you gift from us here at Dime for having your support, but also supporting your local Canadian quilt shops. Without you guys, none of us would be able to do this. So we all really appreciate you guys being here. So let me show you how to get your free quilting design. So for the video today, during the presentation, you'll be watching in this window, and just pay attention and try not to click on these two logos because it actually takes you to YouTube. And that's away from our presentation. So if that happens, click that previous tab. You could always go back to your original link if you needed to rejoin. Now, to the right of the video is our chat area. So if you haven't already, you can chat with us. Tell us where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, that's where you want to ask them. Now, below the presentation, this is a shop and learn event. So we do have specials on the products that we're talking about today. So you can add these products to cart by clicking the add to cart button. And as Gail said, you'll pay no shipping to your local quilt shop, and then you can pick it up from there. These items, to view more details, you can click the view product button. It'll give you a description, and then that's where you'll be able to add it to your cart. Now, once you have added these items to cart, you want to make sure that you put your free design in the cart as well. So click that next page button to load more product. And at the bottom of this page, you will see your free design. So you'll do that same process by clicking on that view product button, and then you'll be able to add it to cart. So that's your free gift for attending our event. Now, once you've done that and you're ready to do the checkout process, click that checkout button at the very bottom, and then this will open up a pop-up box like you see here. Now, guys, this is very important. When this box opens, click that drop down for the show order summary. It will show you what's in your cart, and it gives you the location to enter your free ship code of Save Freight. So Save Freight is your free shipping code. Don't put any spaces in your free ship code. And then once you're all done filling out the information, continue to shipping. And I will mention that free ship code throughout the presentation. So Save Freight gets you free shipping to any US address, and it also gets you free shipping to, if you are in Canada, to your local quilt store. So now the first item I want to share with you that we find helpful in doing edge to edge are cheater quilts. So these are designed as quilt panels, and they're perfect for practicing. They are printed quilt blocks, so you can practice your edge to edge quilting without practicing on your pieced quilt top. So this is a printed panel that Eileen created that quilt out of. So if you already fell in love with that quilt, it's a perfect place to start. And you're already getting that free quilting design as well. Now, the cheater quilt does come with its own set of quilting designs that you certainly can use, but you also have the free one that you're getting today to quilt this quilt if you'd like. Now, don't forget the items that I'm talking about today. If you are interested, you can purchase below the video. So they are specially priced, and you just add those to your cart. Now let's talk about the hooping process. So we use our Snap Hoop Monster for quilting with our embroidery machine because it makes it easier to reposition the hoop. Now this process that I'm about to show you, you certainly could use your standard hoop. And so let me show you that rehooping process. So now I'm working on this cute little wall hanging that is 30 inches wide. So it does require multiple hoopings to get that edge to edge quilting. So to quilt this, we would need to reposition our hoop. Now, if you guys have never seen the Snap Hoop Monster, this is what we like to use. This is a magnetic hoop. It does come in 3 separate parts. The top is the magnet. This actually is the shield that separates the 2 pieces when we're not in use. And this metal base is what will attach to your embroidery machine. So this will look just like the attachment for your standard hoop. So now to use this, I'm going to separate my 3 pieces here for a moment. So now to do your quilting, if you're using your standard hoop, you will most likely have to do your hooping on a flat surface. If you're using the Snap Hoop Monster like I'm showing here, you will attach this to your embroidery unit, place your quilt sandwich over the base of the hoop, and then grab that magnetic top frame. So to use the magnetic hoops, you simply line up the magnetic top with the metal base and then just drop it into place. So now I am hooped and I'm ready to quilt this section of my quilt. So now once you're ready to move on to the next section of your quilt, you will need to rehoop or reposition. So with our magnetic hoops, you can lift the magnetic top frame, have it sitting over the head of your machine, and then just advance your fabric to the next position. Again, place that magnetic top frame back down and drop it into place and line everything up. You're ready to quilt this section of the hoop, what's in the hoop. So now that is the method that you'll use. You will have to reposition to get your quilt tops quilted. And in just a bit, I'm going to show you how we connect these designs to make it one continuous line quilting. So now another item we have that is super helpful is our hoop guard. So this is an attachment for our snap hoop monster, and it creates a barrier. So when we have our quilt sandwich rolled into the throat of the machine, it creates a barrier to prevent your quilt sandwich from falling into the sewing field. So another helpful tool that you can add to your snap hoop monster. Now, for any of you guys that have multi-needle embroidery machines, we do have hoops for those machines as well. So our snap hoop monster does come with the for the multi-needles, and you can see this looks very much like your standard hoop because it does fit the same way, and your machine does recognize these hoops. But these hoops actually work the same way, even though it's for your multi-needle embroidery machines like Brother and Baby Lock. So what you're going to do is then position your quilt sandwich over that hoop once it's on the machine the same exact way. And then you're going to take that top frame and put it into position, just like that. So, and that is strong enough and holds your quilt sandwich. So it is super strong and will hold that in place exactly as you need it. Now, one thing I want to point out here, which is just a little bit of a tip also, when you're quilting on your embroidery machine, since we can only quilt what's in the hoop, the larger the hoop that you use, the more you're going to get quilted in one hooping. So choose your largest hoop, but you do need to fill the hoop with fabric. And we've got a tip on that I'll be sharing later when I show you how to connect those designs. So a larger hoop is going to get you more area quilted. So, and that's the same case whether it's these hoops or your standard hoops. Okay, so now choosing those hoops. If you haven't ever purchased our Snap Hoop Monster and you want to add one of those, to choose it, you're going to go to the brand of your machine first. So underneath the presentation, locate the brand, and then you'll click that View Product button. Then it will give you the option for a drop-down list where you can select the hoop size that you're interested in. Just make sure it has your machine model to the side there. If you are concerned about making the right selection, you can always check out our compatibility chart. It shows machine model and all the hoops we have. Also, Gail and Eileen are in the chat, so you can also ask there as well. So type that into the chat if you're having any issues selecting. Now, the hoop guard, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to snag a new product, I love whenever it works for multiple things. So it's great for your quilting projects like you see here, but the snap hoop with the hoop guard is also great for other projects as well. So if you've ever stitched a t-shirt or like you see here, a baby bodysuit, when it's nested around the embroidery hoop, that can help prevent that from falling into the sewing field. So works great with anything rolled into the throat of the machine or anything nested around your hoop. So that's the hoop guard for Snap Hoop Monster. It does work with our snap hoops. So you would have to have that snap hoop for that one to work. Whereas a lot of our other items, you don't need anything additional for those to work. So, and remember, your save freight is your free ship code. So if you're just joining us, if you joined us a little late, save freight as a ship code is going to get you free shipping to your local Canadian dealer. So you don't have to pay shipping into Canada, but it also gets free shipping to any US address. Now, for today, we are going to be talking about Amelie Scott Designs a little later. She is an edge-to-edge quilter that has her own design collections. So she has recorded this special message to share with you guys, and we'll be seeing her designs used throughout the presentation.
Hi, I'm Christine Connor, owner of Amelie Scott Designs and the author of Edge-to-Edge Quilting on Your Embroidery Machine. I'm also the digitizer for our embroidery and quilting designs. I am thrilled to be working with Dime. Like us, they have great products and tools that make quilting on your embroidery machine fun and easy. They are very inventive at solving problems. I know I have been using their Perfect Embroidery Pro software for years, and I recently started using my quilt planner. I can tell you right now, I love it. I'm also totally hooked on their Snap Hoop Monster magnetic hoops. They make hooping a breeze. They also have a product called the Weightless Quilter that I like to use too. It's like having a bunch of hands helping you when you're supporting the weight of a quilt when you're quilting on your embroidery machine. You guys are going to have so much fun today. In this class, you will get to see firsthand how these products and techniques will make it easy for you to finish your quilt tops. I think at the end of the day, you'll be excited and inspired and ready to start quilting. So have fun.
Thank you, Christine. So, and I love how she refers to the weightless quilter as having someone hold the corners of your quilt up, because that's the next thing we're going to talk about. So when you are quilting with your embroidery machine, you do need to manage the bulk of the quilt. So that's another tip, is make sure that you don't have any quilt drag. So quilt drag is when your quilt is hanging down in front of your embroidery machine and table like you see here, but also down the back of the your table. That drag is, well, first of all, it is a lot for your embroidery machine to move around because our quilts are heavy. And so you want to make sure that you have that supported. And also quilt drag can make your inner ring of your standard hoop pop out of place, or if you're using our Snap Hoop Monster, it can make that magnet on top shift. And when that happens, you are not hooped anymore. It could pull on your needle, break a needle, stitches not be formed correctly. So quilt drag is one of your worst enemies when you're doing quilting with your embroidery machine. So make sure that you have something to help support that quilt sandwich above the table so it doesn't fall down in front or behind. Now for us, we use our weightless quilter for this exact process. So the weightless quilter, as you can see here, is a frame that's holding our quilt sandwich up above the machine so that you don't have that quilt drag. You can see the machine is moving and the weightless quilter is allowing that quilt to sway freely so that you get the best stitch out possible. Now, the way the weightless quilter works, it's actually a frame that sits on the floor underneath your table. So it has these floor bars and corner brackets, and it has flexible poles that fit into those corner brackets. Now, those corner poles will be, like you see here, higher than your table, and the base sits underneath the table. So when you attach a quilt, you will clamp it with the clamps on the pole to your quilt sandwich. And this is what it will look like once you have it all set up. So you can see we have the majority of the quilt out the back of the machine here. It's not falling down behind the table, but it's supported by that weightless quilter. Now the weightless quilter does work with pretty much any setup that you already have in your sewing, embroidery, and quilting room. So it is perfect for a smaller table like you see here on that outside edge and around the back. If you have a longer table, it can fit underneath the table. If you have a sewing cabinet that's closer, that has less clearance at the base, you can put it around the corner of the cabinet like we see here. But now I know you guys probably have some free motion quilters out there, so speak up. We would love to hear from you guys if we have some free motion quilters out there. The weightless quilter was originally created specifically for free motion quilting. So if you have a sit down quilter, it can help support that quilt weight, or if you're quilting with your sewing machine free motion, it works the same exact way. So here are some images to give you an idea of how it actually works. So you can see that we have a quilt sandwich all set up, ready to quilt. We've got more than half of it rolled into the throat of the machine. The flexible pole of the weightless quilter is flexed and supporting that quilt so it's not completely hanging down in front of our table. Now, as we work our way to the right of the quilt, you can see that flexible pole is extended out and it is still supporting the weight of the quilt. So it's doing exactly what we need it to. Now, this is a great example. I feel like this is a lot of what we deal with on a daily basis. My sewing and embroidery room is not huge, so you can see how close that table is to the back wall, but the weightless quilter is still able to be used and it's doing its job perfectly. Even as we work down to the bottom of the quilt, and more of it's in the back, it's still preventing it from falling down behind that table and supporting the quilt so that your embroidery machine can freely move to do that quilting. Now, as we said, the weightless quilter is great for other things. It can help you manage any amount of fabric that you need. So if you are embroidering on drapes or a large tablecloth, or doing binding on a quilt like you see here, or any large amount of fabric, shower curtains, anything that you need to manage, this can do that for you. So it's a nice helping hand to help support your quilt. Now, this is a video of the weightless quilter and free motion quilting. So you can see here that it's still floating along, taking that strain off of your hands and wrist and shoulders when you're pushing that quilt around to do your free motion quilting. So let me back up. We'll see that one more time. Here we go. So you can see whenever you're doing that free motion that it is slowly moving because those flexible poles are supporting the quilt there. So great for free motion, great for your machine embroidery as well. So the weightless quilter is another one of our products that we have on special today. So you can grab that if you're interested. And remember, the products are below the presentation. So the next segment we're talking about is we're going to talk about the design layout on your quilt tops. We're going to talk about how to see exactly where to start, how many hoopings you'll need, and how to connect those designs. So that's coming up next. But before we do that, let's see if we have any questions that we should address. Eileen, any questions or comments out there?
Yeah, there's lots of questions. First, let's talk about Janome hoops. Can we do that? Because there's lots of Janome users up there. So this is a Janome hoop. So just take a look at all this expanse of the hoop, because your attachment is located far behind the machine, away from the needle. That causes too much weight in our magnetic hoops. And that's why we don't offer or have plans to make it for the beautiful Janome 12 or 15,000. So my apologies, but I can't redesign their machines. There's nothing I can do about that. Let's see. We have lots of people wanting to know. Well, here's an interesting question from Deborah Hooper. Is that really her last name? Hooper?
I know. I don't know, but I want that last name.
I want that last name too. Do you have to ensure additional pins to your quilt sandwich so that the quilt layers don't shift with the weightless quilter? What do you think?
Yeah, so we recommend just basting about a hand's width apart, and that seems to be sufficient for your quilt sandwich whenever you have woven fabric top and in the back. Some people like to put minky on the back, more slippery fabric or things that have stretch. Maybe you would want to put more to keep that in position, but about a hand's width apart for basting is generally what we use. Yeah,
we really haven't had the weightless quilter cause any more shifting than normal handling of a quilt, without that added extra hand of the weightless quilter. In fact, I mean, it takes away from a lot of that trouble. Right. And let's see, can you use it for free motion quilting? You sure can. You already showed that. There's lots of questions about shipping. And of course, it is in US dollars. We're an American company. Our shopping cart, everything is set up here in the US. So we weren't able to change that for this event. And we appreciate you understanding for that. So, let's see, is there a Bernina, hoop for the Burnett? We don't make it for the Burnett at this time. And remember, there's a drop-down menu underneath every hoop. So you'll see an image of the hoop, and if you click on view product, there's a little arrow there. You can click on that drop down. You'll see all the hoop sizes and machine models listed. That's how you find your hoop. So there's more questions, but I know you have so much coming up that you're going to address. Well, somebody wanted to know, will these techniques also apply to small projects like table runners? Absolutely.
Yeah, so true. And for small projects, say smaller than a lap size, then you don't need something like the weightless quilter, because generally it's going to sit right there on your table. You don't have that problem of it falling down in front of your table. So, but absolutely, these techniques all work on small or large projects.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ashley.
All right, let's get back to it. So guys, keep your questions coming if you have them. And I agree with Eileen, as we step through each of these sections, we probably will answer a lot of those questions. But if you don't get your answer, I know the chat moves really fast, and Eileen and Gail are only 2 people. So ask again. Don't feel like that they have forgotten you. It may have just gone by so fast that they missed. So ask your question in the chat. And like I said, we're going to answer probably a lot of them here coming up. So the next section is about the designs and getting that layout done. So the first thing I want to share with you is, as you're doing this process, you are using an embroidery design. So these are all embroidery files for your embroidery machines. And as you know, there are many designers out there that already make these quilting type designs for your embroidery machine that you may already have some of them. So they are normally a run stitch design, and I like the forward run designs where they don't overwrite one another, so it looks more like a long arm has created those. But sometimes they do have to overwrite to track back and things like that. But a lot of times our edge-to-edge designs have a start and stop point on either side of the design, like you see this here. And our goal is to link up those designs to give you that continuous line design look. So this is the goal. And in fact, it takes us putting all these designs together and linking up those points to make that look with our embroidery machine. But it's not that hard. We've got all the information and we've broken it down, I feel like, in these manageable tasks so that you'll know exactly what to do to get these done. So now I just want to share with you some different types of designs to choose from. So this design here has a start and stop on the opposite side that we would then connect. And just to give you an idea, this is a 56 by 75 quilt with a 6 by 10 design. So you don't have to have the largest hoop on the market to do this quilting with your embroidery machine. You can see that red design in the center represents 1 hooping for this particular layout. Now, once you get those designs all stitched, this is the look that you're going to get. So it really does mimic a long arm. And I feel like you're going to be so happy with it. And it's so gratifying once you get an item done. Even the small items are super gratifying, I feel like, when I get it done. Now, the Amelie Scott designs, you guys may be familiar with her designs. They are also the type of design that has that start and stop point on either side. But she also gives you an A and a B design for that same motif to give you some variation in your quilting. So you can see here I've got my column of the A design and the column of the B design, and they're slightly different to give you that variation in the quilting, but you do still connect those point to point with that run stitch on either side of the design. Now, this type of design is something you may have already seen as well. We refer to this as a closed design. Now, this, if you guys have never quilted with your embroidery machine, this is the type of design I really would recommend for your first stitching. It's very forgiving, and I promise that you'll be pleased with your results the very first time you do this method. So these closed designs, the thing that I like about them is that they don't have a point that you are connecting. It's a start and stop in the same exact point. So you will just nest those designs up to one another. But look at my example there. Even though that's nested together, it still gives me that all over quilting look. And remember, your hoop size, you can do this with any size. This is a 10 by 10 hoop size example, but if you don't have a 10 by 10, even this process with the 6 by 6. So you can see you still can get that same all over quilting look, even with a smaller hoop. So don't let that part scare you. If you have an embroidery machine, you can quilt with your embroidery machine as long as you can get a quilting design and you've got a quilt sandwich to do it. So a throw pillow, this is another really great starter project because it's small, but it still requires multiple hoopings. And here's another really user-friendly design, and that's a meandering type design that is closed. Again, this design, you don't link up a point, you nest it near the previously stitched design. So you can see in this example here, it still gives you that all over quilting look. So this one design here represents 1 hooping. Now, sometimes when we get to the edge of our quilt, having a half design is a great feature to have. So if you have a design collection that gives you a half or a quarter or a triangle shape of those designs, it's great to have those on hand so you don't have to stitch as far off the edge of your quilt. Now, the last type of design that I want to share with you is like these diamond shaped designs. These are also closed designs, so they don't link up point to point, but you can see whenever you position them evenly and offsetting them, it gives you that beautiful all over quilting look as well. So you don't have to link up point to point. And in fact, if you start by using a design that's closed, I think that you'll be really happy with the results. And those random meandering designs are very forgiving. So this is another example of those nesting designs. And this is actually stitched on another one of our cheater quilts. So if you liked the idea earlier of having a printed panel that looks like pieced quilt blocks, this is another one of those items. So we have this one below the video as well as the Ohio Star. You can see those below, and the crisscross cheater quilt. So they're perfect. You get this panel. It's a lap size quilt panel that you could quilt just as it is or cut it up and make it into smaller pieces like we did here with this table runner. So a great project to practice with. You don't have to practice on your pieced quilt top. Okay, so now let's talk about the design layout. So I'm going to use our My Quilt Planner software to show you the design layout, show you how to figure out where to start, how many hoopings it's going to take, and you are going to be surprised at how few hoopings that you will need if you have a large hoop. So we're going to be showing you some of that here in My Quilt Planner. So My Quilt Planner is a software that installs on your computer, and it will help you with the quilting design layout. So this program installs on Mac or PC, and it has 99 built-in quilt designs. So if you don't have a ton of quilt designs yet, this gives you 9 built-in edge-to-edge quilting designs. And you can print full-size templates, which that is what I use to make sure I get those point-to-point connections perfect. So I'm going to show you how that works. Now, My Quilt Planner is very simple to use. What you do is you enter the information about your quilt top that you're ready to quilt, and then you color code the quilt. You color code based on where you want your design to repeat, and it does all the repeating for you, so you can plan your quilt design layout without having to copy a design 60 or 70 times to see what it's going to look like whenever it's all over quilted. So you can also set this up for having sashings and borders to make sure that you've got the right design for your borders. So let's take a look at exactly how that works. So I'm going to head over. I'm inside My Quilt Planner here. And so I'm going to choose my quilt option here to build my quilt. Now I'm going to enter some just generic measurements. You would enter the information about your quilt top. So I'm going to say we got a 10 by 10 block, that we have no sashing, and we have a 3-inch border. And you can see as I answered these questions, it has built my virtual quilt here to the right. The next thing you want to do is color code your quilt. So wherever you want the design to repeat, so I'm going to say I want the interior of my quilt to be edge-to-edge quilting. So I'm going to color it all the same because I want to use the same design. And then I'm going to color my borders a different color, so that I can choose a different design. So let me grab a couple of different colors here, and then we'll be ready to enter our design. So one last one for our corners. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the opacity and the brightness of the design just so you guys can see it better. So I just lightened up my quilt so you guys can see it on the screen well. Okay, so now what you're going to do to plan your quilt, so this is the information about the quilt top you're ready to piece. So you're going to add your quilting design. So you can import designs that you already own that are stitch file formats or from different designers. I'm just going to work with the free ones, but I will show you how to bring in other ones as well. So I'm going to start with this design here, and notice how it puts one design on the workspace here, but it duplicates for me so that I can see what it's going to look like when I get it quilted. So now for this, I want to do fit to sell so that it will fill this area. And now what I have just done is I've actually created a design that is the perfect size to do 3 hoopings across, and it will end right at my border. So if you just use a design, you have to do a little quilt math to figure out exactly what size that design needs to be to end at your border of your quilt. But with this, it automatically does that for me. It fits it right to that cell and it ends exactly at my border. And of course, if this isn't the design of your dreams, then you just remove it, go back and grab another. And then the same thing, we can fill that in. Now, this design here is another closed design. And again, you can see how just nesting it next to the previous design still gives you that all over quilting look. So let's grab a couple of other designs. So these are all the free design categories. So we have these 4 different categories with all of the free designs. And so you have quite a bit to choose from. So I'm going to choose this one as perfect for our border. And then I'm going to take that same design and just copy it, paste it, and rotate it for my left and right border. And there we go. And one last design for our cornerstones there. So I'm going to grab this one and place that right in our cornerstones. And now we have designed our first quilt design layout. So what I know from looking at this design, so we have 4 different designs that we will be using to quilt this quilt with our embroidery machine. I can tell that this B2 cell is the exact center of my quilt. So if I fold my quilt in half, both lengthwise and vertical and horizontal, and this line here will represent my fold, I can use my template and make sure I get that first template in the right spot for my quilting, and then do my quilting in these other blocks, working my way out from the center. So now once you have your quilt designed, there's a couple of things you're going to want to do. So you want to do the export quilt option and then give that a name. So I'm just going to call that our test quilt here, and save that into the format of your embroidery machine. So when I do that, it automatically saves each one of my quilt designs for me. So with one save, I saved all of my designs, and I'm ready to put those on my USB stick and take those to my embroidery machine. Now remember, each of these designs, you will reposition your hoop to quilt the next design to get that all over quilting. This PDF actually gives you information on recommended start point and where to go for your second, third, and so forth and so on hoopings. So it's a great way to plan your quilt and not have to do any quilt math. And so I want to show you one more scenario here and give you a couple of tips about doing edge to edge with designs that are imported from other designers. So let's do one more quick quilt here. And I'm going to put in my measurements, and I'm going to use, instead of my block size, I'm going to use my hoop size. So let's say I want to use my 8x12 hoop. I'm actually going to put in 7x11 so that my design will almost fill my hoop completely. The reason I don't put my full hoop size is this actually gives me a little bit of wiggle room if I don't hoop perfectly straight. So that's one tip. If you have to, when you're hooping, if you don't always land it exactly where it needs to be, choose a design that's slightly smaller than your hoop, or resize it slightly smaller to give you that wiggle room. So resizing your quilting designs about 10% is perfectly fine. It'll still maintain that spacing. So with edge to edge, we usually want to quilt all over regardless of sashing or borders. So I don't put any sashing or any borders when I'm doing that edge to edge with the same design all over. So now let me just darken up my design, lighten up my quilt so you guys can see it, and then we will import a design that's outside of my quilt planner. So if you have designs you already own and you want to use them in my quilt planner in this fashion, you will just go to File and Merge and go to the location of those quilt designs. So mine are in my C Dime Designs, and I have a quilting folder here with my design. So let me locate that. And I have some of the Amelie Scott designs stored on my computer, so I'll use those. So this expansion pack 5 is one of my favorites because she gives you some cute little quilting and sewing motifs. So these are some of the designs in that collection. So you scroll down, locate the design you want to use, and say, okay. So now I'm going to put that design in any one of these cells and it'll automatically duplicate. And then I'm going to do fit to cell to make that fit the area. So now what I've done is I have a design that is perfectly sized for me to do 5 hoopings across and 4 hoopings down in my 8x12 hoop. And I know this is going to end at the edge of my quilt top. So I don't have to worry about it running off the edge. But if your design does stitch off the edge, I have some information for that in just a bit. Now, the Amelie Scott designs actually give you an A and a B. So if you want to use both the A and the B design, you're going to simply color every other row differently so that you can import that design. So I'm going to do File and Merge, and then just locate my B of the same design and put that in my second column, fit that to cell, and I'm ready to go. So now visually from this particular layout, I can tell that C2 or C3 is the location that I want to start with my first design. So if I fold my quilt in half, both horizontally and vertically, and mark that center point, I can place my template right on my fold, and I know that this is where my first design will go. And you can start in either C2, C3, quilt in this column and change your design, quilt the next column. When you're ready to do the other half of your quilt, you will rotate your quilt around to quilt these other 2 columns. So I can visually see that there from the design, and it makes it easier to show you with it all laid out. So the last thing I want to show you in here is let's copy this design, and I'm going to open up a new page and paste it. So the other thing I want to show you in here is printing a template. Now, we have to connect these points on either side of the design as we are repositioning our hoop. So a template is a really easy way to do this. So you're going to use the print feature and print a template that is actual size. Now, if you already have an embroidery software, you can print actual size of your designs, then do so for your quilting designs to help you with the placement. If you don't have a quilting design, we do have Embroidery Toolshed that is a free program that can print for you as well. And so you can print actual size. That's the key. You want your design to be actual size when it's printed. I also love that I get these crosshairs so that I can definitely get my design exactly where I need to. Okay, so now that we've seen that process of the planning and printing our design, let's head over and I'm going to show you how to link those designs up. So now I'm here under my live camera, and I wanted to show you if you print a template that is larger than a piece of paper. So when you print a quilting design, especially if you're printing one for, you know, your hoop that's larger than an 8.5 by 11, the design will extend on 2 pages. So you will then, the software will automatically break that up and you will tile those together to make your one full design. So even if it doesn't fit on 1 page, it's still going to be actual size. You'll just have to put several pieces of paper together to get your actual size design. So it does print on 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper in your normal printer to get your templates. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and then I have an example here where I want to show you how to connect your design. So the first one I'm going to show you is using your free design that you're getting for attending our event. And this design is a closed design. So we're going to nest the next design right up next to it. Now, in my example here, I am using this piece of fabric to simulate my quilt top. So I've already stitched 6 of my designs, and I did different colors so that you could see the difference in the designs, but your design will most likely all be in the same thread color. I've printed my template of my design, and I've trimmed away the excess paper. So now to make sure that I get my design in the exact place, my template is going to help me with that. So I'm going to place my template down right next to my previously stitched design, and I place my template where I want my next design to land. So that gives me the ability to hoop around that template, and I know that I can get my hoop in the right place, lining up those crosshair with the marks on my hoop. So this is the same process for our snap hoops or for your standard hoop. So those notches on your standard hoop, you can line up with those marks, and you know that you have your hoop in the right place, so you don't have to try to reposition under the needle. So that's the great thing about templates. So now once you're done, you'll lift your top of your hoop, and then you're going to make sure that you put your template in the next spot. So you won't stitch through this. This is only to help you with placement, and then you will remove it before you stitch so that you can use it again and again. Now here, notice that I have extra batting. So this is simulating my quilt top. I'm under a small camera, so I couldn't put a whole quilt under here. But this extra batting is important. So this is a tip that I will give you. When you get to the edge of your quilt top and your design is kind of stitching off the edge, that extra batting gives something for your hoop to attach it to. And I'll show you that in my next example. Okay, so here, I have one of those examples where we have a point to point that we have to connect. So it's the same exact process, only in this instance, we're actually going to connect our points with our template. So this simulates my quilt top, and then we've already quilted this column. We've started column B, and we're ready to quilt this section here. So you would use your printed template to line up those 2 points. So when you place your template exactly where you want your design to stitch, then it makes it so much easier to make sure you're in the right position. So then when you place your hoop around that template and line up your crosshair with the marks on your hoop to make sure that you are hooped in the right spot, you would then peel off this template to stitch that design exactly where you need it. So you make sure you center the design over that crosshair to know that you're in the right spot. Okay, so once we're done with this design stitching, we're ready to move on to our next design in the next column. So the same process, guys, you take your template, place your template exactly where you want the design to stitch, and then you know exactly where to place your hoop. Once you get your hoop into position, don't forget you will peel this template off to do your stitching. Now, this is a scenario that gives me the opportunity to give you several tips. The first one is to point out exactly what I said before with the extra batting. So leave about 3 or 4 inches around your entire quilt top. For this purpose. When you get to the edge of your quilt top, we still have something for our hoop to attach to. So the batting and the backing fabric are filling the hoop so that I've got fabric throughout the entire hoop to give me a really nice stitch out. Now, it kind of acts as a leader fabric, if that makes sense to you. The other thing I want to point out here is, remember we said when you're using My Quilt Planner, it will resize your design so that it ends right at your quilt top. Now, that's not necessary. You don't have to have My Quilt Planner. It's just a nice tool to help you with the quilt math. But if you just start on your quilt in the center and you just link up your designs and you haven't done any calculating, your last design will most likely stitch off the edge of your quilt, which is perfectly fine. That's another reason that adding this extra batting is a great option. When your design stitches off the edge onto your batting and you're all done, you will trim away your excess batting and still have that nice clean edge, even though you're trimming off some of your stitches. Another tip right here, when your design is stitching off of your quilt top and back on, be very careful that your foot does not get caught under the quilt top. So what you're going to do is just while it's stitching and the foot's traveling off and on, hold that edge down with a skewer or chopstick, a stiletto, you know, whatever you have to hold down that quilt top other than your finger. So you don't want to stitch over your finger accidentally. Another thing you can do if you worry about forgetting is you can use a water-soluble adhesive stabilizer, cut a little strip to place down over the edge, and as your machine travels off and on, you won't get it caught under the edge. Then when you're all done, you will wash your quilt top. That will all rinse away. So there's a couple of tips to help handle that edge of the quilt. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and also linking up your designs. Okay, so let's head back over. One more thing that Quilt Planner can do for you that I love, because I'm not always the best with choosing colors. You can actually import an image of your quilt top and audition the design and stitch color right on the quilt if you'd like. So that is super helpful with picking out thread colors for me and designs, because when you're auditioning different designs like you see here, you may like one design with your quilt top a little bit better than the other. So I love that visual that you can get. And then when this was all said and done, this was quilted by Eileen, and she chose this beautiful variegated thread, which was a perfect match to her quilt top. So you can see there the variation in the thread, and I absolutely love that. So you can quilt with pretty much any thread that you can run in your embroidery machine. So variegated thread, your regular embroidery thread, metallic thread. You have so many choices that you can quilt with. Just match that top and bottom bobbin for your weight of the thread. So if you're stitching with a 40 weight, put a 40 weight in the bobbin. Okay, so we do have specials. Like we said, this is shop and learn. So we do have specials on the things that we're talking about if you feel like any of these items would be super helpful for you. So we have our Ultimate Quilt Bundle, which includes the Weightless Quilter. It includes the My Quilt Planner also. And then we're throwing in a bunch of other goodies in this bundle. So we have this micro font collection, which is perfect for you guys to do quilt labels with. A lot of times we need tiny little font to put all the quilt information. So those are a set of micro fonts that are great for that. And we're also giving you this box of fine line thread. This is a 60 weight thread, which is also good for quilting. It's thinner, so it gives a really subtle effect. But it is the thread you want to use with those micro fonts to make sure that they stitch out and are legible. Now, if you've been wondering which needle to use with your quilting with your embroidery machine, we recommend a sharp embroidery needle. So a sharp point embroidery needle is what's included in your bundle, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. These are flat shank needles, so if you're already using a flat shank, then you can use these needles. And included in this bundle, if you are concerned with learning all of this, because it is a lot and we are cramming a ton of information into the next 90 minutes, but in this bundle, you get 2 different learning options for your My Quilt Planner. So Eileen wrote 4 PDFs to help you guys learn your My Quilt Planner. There's 4 different quilt scenarios that she steps you through in a written manner to help you learn your My Quilt Planner. And you also get a 30-minute private tutoring session from me to learn your My Quilt Planner. So we will meet over Zoom, and you can ask me any question about your My Quilt Planner and getting your quilt tops quilted. So all of that is normally over $1,100, and it is $699.99 for the event. So don't forget, your free ship code is Save Freight. So that will get you free shipping to any U.S. address and free shipping to your Canadian dealer. Now, we also have the Professional Quilt Bundle. So maybe you want to work on smaller items. You don't need a weightless quilter. So the My Quilt Planner is included in this Professional Bundle with those micro fonts, the fine line thread, those needles, that's embroidery sharp needles. There's 100 of them in that pack. And you get those 2 free learning opportunities as well. So this bundle with the My Quilt Planner, $709 normally, and it's $439.99 for this event. And so all of these are available below the presentation if you are interested. Now, if you just want the My Quilt Planner by itself, you can also snag that. This is just the My Quilt Planner software with those 2 free learning opportunities in this bundle for $229.99. So those are our options for getting the most bang for your buck. And don't forget, it'll all be shipped to you for free if you're US or Canada to your store. Okay, so before I go on to this, I wanted to explain these micro fonts a little bit more. Before I do this, let's see if we have any questions or comments. So Eileen, anything you want to talk about? Oh, I can't hear you. Uh-oh.
I would have to turn that back on.
Power.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we did have several questions about people wondering if the designs are scalable in my quilt planner.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Just remember when you're resizing quilting designs that when you resize them larger or smaller, it does change the space between the quilting. So if you go really small, the stitches will be closer together. So it will resize, it recalculates the stitches, right, but it will not maintain that space in between, but they are resizable to whatever you need them to be.
Right. No software is, has the ability to like change the artwork. And really in quilting, it's that space between the stitches that creates the loft and the texture of the batting. So, there's some limits, but for sure, if you have a 6x10 design and you want to scale it up to a 7x12, you wouldn't have any problem with that. It would still stitch just beautifully.
Yeah.
And it saves in a gazillion formats, reads a gazillion formats. So if you're going back in, maybe you would bring that save as arrow so they can see that long, long list. And it even opens and saves in long arm formats, which, there's a lot of designs out there in the long arm market, right?
Absolutely. In fact, that table runner in the beginning that I have, that's a long arm quilting design that I used to converted it to an embroidery file with my quilt planner. So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So I think we're pretty well caught up. There's a lot of shipping questions, and Gail is coming back on at the end of Ashley's teaching session, and she's going to go over all those details and just make sure everybody understands. But hey, one thing that's really cool is that if you purchase software like My Quilt Planner, that's an immediate download. So you will, after you check out, you'll receive an email that will allow you to download that design. So you don't have to wait for any shipping.
Right. Yeah. And if you are buying a combination of both, you still will get all those downloadable items right away while you're waiting on your hard good items to get there. So like Eileen said, you can start playing immediately.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Ashley.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, guys. So I just wanted to share with you a few more details. And the micro font is one of them. So we included this in your bundle. So I just wanted to share with you what it is. These are a set of miniature fonts that actually stitch down to 3 millimeters and are still legible. So these are perfect for not just your quilt labels, but recipe towels, or if you're doing small items like baby items, left chest or right chest logos. A lot of times we have a long name in one or the other. And so this is a perfect set of fonts for those. These install on your computer. So you could type in your saying. So if you have a recipe towel, it's a family recipe, you could just copy that, paste it right in, and have that convert to those micro fonts. So the reason we like these micro fonts, they are specifically digitized to be this small. You can't take your standard font and shrink it down this tiny and still expect it to stitch out as beautifully. Our standard fonts have overlapping areas, so that causes some issues when you get really tiny. So this is one of those downloadable items. So if you're purchasing this separately or in the bundle, you'll get these fonts and your My Quilt Planner all in that download email. So you'll watch for your confirmation email. You'll get a receipt for your purchase, and then you'll get another email that has the download links for all your items. Now, the needles that I was talking to about for the bundle, these are sharp point embroidery needles. So this is what we recommend for quilting with your embroidery machine. So you may already have a sharp point embroidery needle on hand, but this sharp point has a smaller footprint and of course a sharper point to pierce those 3 layers of your quilt sandwich. And so when it is piercing that with ease, it's able to form your stitches perfectly. So if you've ever had an issue like when you're quilting with your skip stitches, things like that, stitches not formed nicely, try switching to a sharp point needle for your embroidery, because that may be the trick to make sure you get that perfectly stitched design. Now, this particular pack is $35.99. It's 100 needles in this collection, and they have several different sizes, as you can see here. These are flat shank needles. So if you're already using a flat shank, these will work in your embroidery machine. So that's the needles that we recommend for quilting. They are also great if you are quilting with on any woven fabric. So a woven fabric has that tighter weave. So our light ballpoint embroidery needle has a little bit harder time piercing it. I know we don't notice it, but it does push against the fabric. And that actually can contribute to puckering. So using that sharp point needle on your regular embroidery with a woven fabric is another good tip. Okay, so if you need to stock up on any of your designs, this is what we're talking about now. I'm talking about some of those different designs that we talked about, some of those closed designs, as well as the Amelie Scott designs coming up. But if you're the type of person that likes to have written material for what you are viewing, this book is a great option for you. So I'm talking for 90 minutes and very quickly, I might add. I know this is a lot in 90 minutes, but this book is a downloadable book, and it is all the details that we're talking about today. So if you want to have something to refer to later, then snag this Quilt with an Embroidery Machine in 8 Easy Lessons book. It will be available even long after your presentation is over. So you do have, just a reminder, 48 hours to review this presentation. So I know I'm going quickly. If you want to back up and watch again, just to pick up those points, feel free to do as many times in the next 48 hours. And you can also shop for the next 48 hours also. So the book that is 8 Easy Lessons for Quilting with Your Embroidery Machine comes with these designs. So you get a variety of designs. You get some of those point-to-point as well as those closed designs. This meandering design, again, very forgivable, good to start with. It also gives you instructions for a couple of different projects as well. So you can make these table runners, that throw pillow also. So this is the Quilt with an Embroidery Machine 8 Easy Lessons book. It is a digital book. So like Eileen just said, watch for your email that has all your downloadable links and you'll get this right away. So you'll get a receipt first, and then a confirmation email will come shortly after that with everything that you purchase that's a downloadable item. Now, this, guys, is one of my favorite design collections. If you want something from your embroidery machine, the quilting process that's very unique, then this is the design for you. This is the Stream of Flowers. It has those 4 main body designs. When they're nested together, they give you an extremely unique quilting design. So I know that one's hard to see, but look at this contrasting thread here. So that unique quilting pattern is created by those 4 designs and these border designs. So it is very unique. No one will ever even imagine that you were able to accomplish that on your embroidery machine. And it's just all about nesting designs the same way I've shown you here today. You use your template, make sure you've got them placed correctly, and you're repositioning to that next spot. So that's the Stream of Flowers design. If you like that design, you can snag that below. We also have the Flower Box Quilt book, which is all the instructions to create that gorgeous quilt there in front of Eileen. And it has also information on another project like this cute little table runner here. And that Flower Box Quilt book has quilt has applique pieces on it. So you also get the cut files. So if there are any of you guys out there that have a digital die cutter, you get those cut files to pre-cut your applique if you'd like. And it has all the formats that you need for your embroidery machines. So that's the Flower Box Quilt book if you like that and want to reproduce that quilt. And now the next thing I want to share is I'm just going to reiterate that template connecting part just so it kind of sinks in to show you about connecting those designs. Now, some of you guys may have some really cool features on your machine where you have a camera or a projector or maybe some precise placement options. If you have those options on your machine, they can also help you line up your designs as well. But just a reminder, remember how we used our template to place exactly where we're on our design to stitch so it can help us link up those points? That shows us where to place our hoop, and those crosshairs can help us get lined up in our hoop. Now, when you're using a template, now you can print on regular paper if you'd like. I printed on our print and stick target paper. This is an adhesive 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. In this pack, there are 25 sheets of this, and it is already adhesive and it's slightly translucent. So I was able to place my design down without having to pin it in place for my template. and it holds until I'm ready to remove it to stitch. So another tip, whether you're printing on paper or our print and stick paper, trim the excess paper from around your design so that when you are putting your design on your quilt, as you see here, you're dealing with the size of the design basically, and that extra paper is not overlapping in other areas. You can see here how you can see through this template paper, so it's very easy to position that design exactly where you need it. And like we said, that crosshair helps you get it placed in the hoop. And then this is what it will look like on the machine. So once you get your item in place, center your needle position over that crosshair to make sure your design is in the correct location. And then this is very important. If you're using our template paper, remove the template. Or if you're using regular paper, remove the template. Don't stitch through the template. It is not water soluble, and you'll have to pick that out of your quilt, which won't be any fun. And now for those of you that really want to make sure to reduce that knot on the back, if it's concerning you that you might see that knot on the back of your quilt whenever it ties on and off, you can always pull your bobbin to the top. So advance to the first stitch before you do this, and then pull your bobbin thread to the top, just like we used to do with our older sewing machines when we had to pull up our bobbin, and then start stitching. So that'll reduce the size of the knot on the back of the quilt for you. But I will say, and Eileen, I think, can attest to this too, you will possibly forget to do this if you have 70, 80 hoopings for your quilt. So when you're starting, choose a busy fabric for the back, and it'll hide those knots. You'll never know that they're there. And this is a great shot of repositioning your quilt, how we just lift the magnetic top frame, store it over the head of our machine while we advance our fabric to the next location. Okay, so now I've got a couple more things and we're almost finished, and we'll get to one last question and answer session. So the quilt sandwich. So I know that you guys know you have to have a quilt sandwich, but we do have a tip for basting it for you to make it easier. And so when you are working with your quilt sandwich, and especially if you have a large quilt in a small space, and I don't even have space, I don't think, in any of my floor area to spread out a queen size quilt. So basting it with this method makes it so much easier. So if you haven't ever seen this, this is a super simple way to get your quilt tops basted. So using a pool noodle, you can roll your quilt top onto a pool noodle. And so if you need to, you can tape two of those together to make sure you've got a width as wide as your quilt top. Roll that onto a pool noodle. I know some people have used pipe insulation. You may have another item that you use. Make sure your quilt top is right side up. And then you'll do the same thing with your backing fabric, only right sides down, so that when you unroll a section, it's in the right orientation to make your quilt sandwich. So now put your batting on top of your backing, and you're going to make sure everything's smooth as you go. We all know that process. And then you'll grab that other pool noodle with your quilt top and roll out a small section and start your basting process. So the thing that's nice about doing this method, your quilt top and the back stays nice and smooth and straight on the pool noodle, and you're only rolling out a small section until you get that basted. So you're working with a very small area, which makes it so much more manageable. Now for basting, we prefer our normal quilting pins. So basting your 3 layers with quilting pins makes it easier to remove these right at the machine. So basting about a hand's width apart is a good distance. And once you're at the embroidery machine, don't forget, whatever basting method you choose, you do have to remove any of these items right there at the machine. So you can use spray adhesive if you'd like. You can use a basting gun. You do have to snip those tags and pull the front, the top and the back out. So just make sure you keep that in mind. So that's why we love just using our regular quilting pins. They're easy to remove right at the hoop. Okay, so the last thing I have here is the bundles with the Amelie Scott designs. So Christine Connor has so nicely shared these bundles with us and allowed us to give them to you at special pricing. So she's included in her Christine's Edge to Edge favorites, the Edge to Edge book with 10 free designs in the back of that book. So You also get 3 different design collections, and you get 4 miniature quilting designs that are perfect for your table runners or even your placemats. And she's throwing in 3 bonus quilt patterns, so you will have some nice quilt tops pieced and have plenty of designs to get those quilted. So that's 44 quilting designs in this bundle for $95. Normally that's $138 to buy all that separately, so it's a nice savings for the event. So now let me just zoom in and show you close up what's included. I know I'm going fast, but don't forget you can do the view product to see what's in the bundles. You can also review this after we're done to see these close-ups again. So this is the 10 designs included in the book and the Edge to Edge favorites. You get expansion pack 2, expansion pack 5, one of my personal favorites with these 2 sewing quilting motifs there. Expansion pack 11. Those 4 miniature designs and 3 bonus quilt patterns. So that's Christine's Edge to Edge favorites, and that's $95 for 44 total quilting designs. So the next bundle that she has created for you guys is the Expansion Pack Plus. So this has 6 different of her design collections, 4 of the 5x7 miniature designs, and 3 bonus quilt patterns. And those are all different quilt patterns and different miniature designs and different collections. So that is a total of 64 designs for normally would be 162, and it's 220 for the event. So here's your close-up view of what is included. So it's included expansion pack 7 and 8, expansion pack 9 and 10, expansion pack 12 and 13, and these 4 miniature designs, and these 3 awesome quilt patterns. So that's the expansion pack plus. And the last design collection I have for you with the Amelie Scott designs is her latest designs, actually. We've got the big files and small project bundles. This includes 2 of her jumbo packs, her latest expansion pack 14, and then seasonal placemat project instructions and designs. So placemats, always a great place to start. So the jumbo pack 1 is included. That's the designs in that pack. Jumbo pack 2 and expansion pack 14, which is her latest design collection. And seasonal swirl placemats gives you the instructions, quilting designs, and the embroidery designs to create those placemats. And the same is true with the seasonal placemats too. You get the quilting designs as well as the applique designs and the instructions to create those adorable placemats. So sorry about that. So that is the Big Files Small Project Bundle. So that's $88 for the event. And the last thing I have is the 30 pack of our embroidery thread. So if you need to stock up on some of your embroidery thread, great for quilting. This is our Exquisite by Dime. It's large 30 spools of the 5,000 meter spools, and that's $179.99. So a great price per spool if you need to stock up on some thread. So that's the last thing I have. So let's go back to Eileen for any questions, and also chat with Gail again. And just to remind you, your free ship code is SAVE FREIGHT. Don't put any spaces in your free ship code. It's all one word. So Eileen, any questions before we go?
Well, there's been a lot of questions like how long can we watch this program? And so that's 48 hours. And then lots of questions about sold out product and that type of thing. So Gail is coming back on and she's going to handle all those details for you. She did find a way that can be done. Yeah, I know. So that's really great. And then lots of questions about where it will ship and so forth. So I think Gail is here now. I hear a little pop, so hoping to bring her right back in. Here you are.
Here I am.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, Eileen and Ashley. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. And hi there. And I do have some great news. Oh, just a second. I've got something playing audio. Give me a sec.
Okay, sure. No
I've
problem.
got it happening twice here. Okay. I'm hearing myself echoed, so I have to get out of one to get in the other.
Well, all you
So
have to
I'm
do
here
is
now.
mute. If you just
So-
mute shopping cart, if you mute the one with the shopping cart, I've had that too. It's a horrible feeling.
Okay, I learned the hard way.
It's okay. Anyway.
All right, so I just want to review a few things. So the one is, for those of you who were disappointed that some of the snap hoops were out of stock and that you want them, I was busily emailing and talking to the Dime office while we were doing this. And we have decided that if you go to your local quilt shop or phone or email your local quilt shop, and if you order that magnetic snap hoop that is currently out of stock within the next 48 hours, which is the terms of the event, then we will honor the prices. We will honor that price.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful.
But you may need to pay in advance for that hoop, which would be quite reasonable because you're doing that ordering through the event as well. And it should work just fine. Give me a sec. My computer decided to lose its cord and die.
Well, some people are wondering what size hoop they should buy. So here's what Ashley and I think, that if you're going to be quilting with your monster hoop, then select the largest hoop for your sewing field. If you are going to use it for multiple things, then select the hoop that you use the most of your standard hoop. Like if you always reach for your 5x7, then you can be confident that you will use your 5x7 snap hoop monster just as often.
Okay, so I'm back again. So a couple things just to repeat. So the first thing is those, and I know there were some Janome hoops in particular that were out of stock and some of you are quite disappointed, but you will be able to do that.
Well, no, we don't make Janome hoops. We only make Janome hoops for a couple models, which is their 500 and 550. So
correct.
Yes.
So
thank you.
In the drop-down menu that's available through Dime, if it's an available Dime unit that's simply sold out right now and temporarily unavailable, you can order that through your local quilt shop in Canada, and we will get it to you as soon as Dime has them available. Okay. I got that okay?
Yes.
And so a couple little things just to repeat again. The save freight code. So I confirmed, I had a text from one of the quilt shop owners saying that someone had placed two orders, one where they put in the save freight code and one where they didn't. So they were worried they'd be charged freight. I've been assured that that will be managed and that the orders that are coming to Canada, you will not be paying freight. Okay, you'll be fine on that. Somebody else asked if they were going to have to pay duty and brokerage charges. That's all part of the free freight. That's why it's all coming on a big pallet to us at Erie Quilt Art, and we're shipping it across to the customers. The whole reason for us being a Canadian distributor is by bringing in larger orders, we save for you on freight. And that's true. I'm going to do my Buy Canadian commercial here. It's true of everything that you purchase. Your Canadian cost includes a portion for that freight and duty and brokerage, etc. And because we bring it in large volumes compared to what an individual quilter can do, it's at a lower cost. The prices of all of the items, I know we put it in the chat a few times, all of the prices are in US dollars, and Eileen mentioned that as well. And that is because the shopping carts are set up in US dollars. It's just too difficult to do it in multiple currencies. So it is in US dollars. You can look at your bank conversion chart to know what the average foreign exchange is. I think it's when you add the bank extra charges, it's about 1.3 right now, just if you're trying to determine your costs. Some of you have asked if you can change the dealer because you have a dealer at the other end of Canada and you don't want to pay shipping costs. So I would urge you to please contact the dealer that you designated when you signed up and find out from them, based on what you're purchasing, whether there will in fact be a shipping charge. Because based on what you've purchased, there may not be, or it may be minimal and you can still support the shop that you originally designated. If that's not the case, then you're able to email me at Gail at Gail at eriequiltart.com, and I will make sure that that gets organized for you. But I'd urge you to please first talk with the shop that you designated when you signed up. I just got my notes here of everything. Delivery times. How long will this take? It really, my answer to this is always, it depends. So in a perfect world, the orders would be able to be processed by Dime within the next 2 weeks. In a perfect world, it will take about 1 week to get up and over the border and to us. In a perfect world, within a couple of days, my team will be able to get it separated out into shop orders and shipped to them. And then it will take anywhere from a day to 8 days, depending on how far from Calgary your shop is located. So I think the furthest point, again, if all goes well and the Canpar trucks run and they don't run into trouble or a snowstorm in Regina, they will get there within 8 days to the East Coast. So my guess would be it's going to be approximately 4 weeks. So if I say 4 to 6 weeks, that is safe. As soon as it arrives in your local quilt shop, they will let you know it's there so you can come pick up. And I would just ask you, don't keep asking them every week, is it here yet? Is it here yet? Is it here yet? It'll feel like a road trip with your kids. So
I like that. That's a great one. But we love road trips with our kids, right?
Oh, we do love trips with our kids, but my kids knew not to say, are we there yet? Because I told them I'd take the roundabout route and it would take an extra half hour if they asked.
Smart mommy. Smart mommy. Hey, I do have one question. Someone was trying to pay, put their order through PayPal and it's using their home address instead of the shipping address. But you should use your home address.
You should use your home address because
your dealer address.
Yeah, right? You need your home address because that home address is attached to your credit card. Yeah. And that's what they use to verify that it's you using that credit card. They don't want the shop address for that. For PayPal, it's your home address that they need.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think we've got everything. Just once again, the whole purpose was, I hope you've all enjoyed the session. I know I did. There was some great information, Ashley and Eileen. It was super. I don't have an embroidery machine. I'm a quilter, but I'm thinking, oh, this could be fun. So,
yeah. Well, there's beautiful comments. People are so lovely, saying really nice things. And then, of course, one dear friend, Rosemary, just popped in and she said, oh, will there be a link to rewatch this? So it's the same link that got you here for this live moment. You'll just use that same link. We won't be live, but you'll be able to watch the rebroadcast.
And you can watch it anytime you want and as often as you want, up until 48 hours following the event. And that's you can place your order up to 48 hours following the event, not 49, 48. Because if you make it 49, you're going to create all kinds of challenges for us because everything is automated. There's an automatic cutoff. Yeah. So I'm really glad you enjoyed this. So let's support those local quilt shops. I think they are great products. I know when we first decided to bring Dime in, we sent a sampler of threads and stabilizers and other products to local quilt shops who did a lot of embroidery. And it was based on that feedback that we decided to bring the Dime products in.
That's so nice to hear. That's so, and we have to support those local quilt shops. Oh my, without them, boy, we lose our source of inspiration and supplies and resources. So thank you for doing this.
So thank you again for allowing us to do this. Thank you for allowing me to co-host. I'm just checking to see, I was just checking my text to see, I asked a couple of my quilt shop owners if I forgot anything or missed something or didn't say something. I said, please text me and tell me. So I know they will do that and I don't see anything here. So I think I may have covered everything. I hope I have. If anyone does have questions after the event, you are free to email me at gail@eriequiltart.com and I'll be happy to answer your questions and make sure that you get the products you need.
Excellent. Thank you, Gail. Now, Elaine Shappy just wrote she's paying by credit card. Again, it's asking for your home address. That's because it's tied to your credit card.
Yes.
And you said that your local shop is not coming up. As long as your address is in there and you had your shop listed in your registration, Gail is going to be able to connect those two. So don't worry.
Go ahead. And if your shop, if you did not list your shop, you're welcome to email me at gail@eriequiltart.com. It's coming across the bottom of the screen now. You're welcome to email me at that address and let me know what you want to do about the shop. If you had already designated a shop and want to change that shop, I ask you to contact that first shop first to make sure there's not going to be a shipping charge that will upset you. And secondly, if you have any other questions, just feel free to email me and ask, and we'll work through that with you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gail. And I always give Ashley a round of applause.
Thank you.
Yes, because she does such a great job. She really did. And they loved
Thank
it.
you.
They just loved it. So
Awesome.
thank you, Gail.
Perfect.
And thank you, Ashley.
Thanks
Thank you.
everyone for attending. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.